Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. It looks like Brandon Marsh is finally getting his chance as the everyday center fielder of the Phillies. But is it the right move? We'll discuss on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic doing sports talk radio here in Philadelphia for 5 years. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 3 seasons, and this is my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure you're rating and reviewing if you're listening to this in podcast form. We are available wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching this on the YouTube, hit that subscribe button on Locked On Phillies. It really helps us out here, but it helps you out too. It'll get you notifications when new episodes are posted. It's free. It's easy. So I appreciate everyone who's done that already. If you've subscribed to the YouTube channel, if not, please do. That would, again, really help us out. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. I'm going to be honest, shout out to our friends over at FanDuel. I don't know how my laptop that I'm recording this on still works after how many hours of NCAA tournament basketball. It streamed yesterday. So if you want to bet on the tourney, go to FanDuel. They are the best place to do so as that heats up. But what's also heating up is baseball season, folks. Phillies opening day is just, 6 days away now, 5 days away. This next Thursday, the 27th, of course. We've all been counting down on our calendars. And now we're starting to see more decisions made by the Philadelphia Phillies, which has given us more stuff to actually concretely break down here on the podcast. So we're going to get into the decision the Phillies seem to have made in center field. I'm going to tell you why it's not permanent, but also why I do really love the opportunity Brandon Marsh is getting. Also, an outfield decision in the minors that is one to keep an eye on, where Justin Crawford will start the season, and a wild Phillies lawsuit story that we have to get into, because I don't know if I fully even understand what's going on, but it's just one of those weird, interesting stories that is not good for the team, not as bad as you think when you hear the word lawsuit. We'll get to that later. But let's start with this Brandon Marsh thing, right? The Phillies have said that he is their de facto starter in center field. He's going to be the everyday guy in center field. I've been telling you for weeks, Brandon Marsh is going to win that job. Rojas will be a depth piece, but there was always a chance of a platoon, right? I didn't really know. It's hard for us to gauge from the outside, right? Or even from the reporter's point of view down there at spring training until the team tells you. You might see a guy have a great spring and not get paid the dividends of that in the regular season because, well, the guy he was trying to catch position-wise was working on stuff, or he didn't do it the way that the Phillies really wanted him to do it. And I'm not talking about anyone in particular. I'm just saying, like, a guy could go hit 400 in spring and not get opportunities. A guy could go hit 250 in spring, but do everything that the team is asking him to and get more opportunities. So it's kind of tricky to evaluate spring training. It's not just these, his numbers are better, he gets this spot. There's a lot of other contributing factors. But I felt strongly from what I've been hearing and what I've been watching that Brandon Marsh was going to get the starting center field job. There was a chance that they say, hey, okay, well, Rojas is going to get out there for lefties, because Marsh has still had trouble hitting lefties. And in his career as Phillies manager, Rob Thompson, when Brandon Marsh has been part of the team, remember, he was part of the 2022 trade deadline packages. He really thought that Brandon Marsh is not a guy ready to hit lefties. Well, maybe he is now. Or maybe it's just about time to say, hey, screw it, we're going to find out. But Brandon Marsh is getting everyday responsibilities in center field, which means that Johan Rojas could be a platoon option for Max Kepler in left. I don't see Rojas playing left field, so I guess what would be the option, right? If you wanted to give Kepler a day, would be Rojas in center, Marsh moves to left, Castellanos stays in right, but Rojas is going to be your depth option in the outfield. I don't know, maybe Edmundo Sosa could be a depth option in left field for the Phillies because he hasn't been awful in the outfield in spring training, and that's been something they've been trying. But let's talk more about Brandon Marsh, because that's generally the structure, right? The first thing, if anyone who looks at this and says, well, Brandon Marsh is being anointed the center field starter and he hasn't really earned it based on his performances the last couple of years, I get why you're coming from that position, but there's nothing that the Phillies are saying that is permanent, right? They're saying, yeah, he's the everyday center fielder, basically, or that's what it seems like they're saying. Well, that only exists so long. He's not Bryce Harper. If the Phillies come out and say Bryce Harper's our everyday first baseman, that means now until infinity, until the guy whose contract is up, until he stops playing baseball, until you change his position, like he's Bryce Harper. If they tell you Kyle Schwarber's our everyday DH, that means unless that dude needs to take a rest or gets hurt, he is DHing for this team. Like Brandon Marsh isn't that type of player yet. So him being the starting center fielder and not being part of a platoon doesn't mean that if he has a bad month, it won't be Rojas out there, right? Like this is not he's locked in for 162. It's we're not going to be switching it out every 2 games, or at least that's what it seems like the Philadelphia Phillies are saying. So if anyone looks at this and says, I'm worried Marsh hasn't earned it, if he goes through that slump, he's going to kill him. If he goes through that slump, he's not going to be the everyday player in center field. Trust me. They are staking something on this. They're probably going to look to give him about a month or so and see how that all plays out and then reevaluate. It's a good time to do it because, of course, early on in the season, if you can make this determination coming out of spring training, well, let's say he struggles. You're early. You can always make up for it. You're not playing majorly important games, even though there's some big series to start the year for the Philadelphia Phillies when you host the Dodgers, when you visit the Braves. But I think this is the time of the year to try the Brandon Marsh experiment. And let's now talk about why I think he does deserve his role as the everyday center fielder. Part of it's what he's done, which I'll talk about. But the more important part of it, the stronger contributing factor, is who else were they going to put there, guys? They don't have outfield depth. We're going to talk about Justin Crawford getting put into AAA in our next segment. And part of the reason there is they don't have outfield depth in the organization. Now, Weston Wilson can add outfield and infield depth once he's healthy. But he's not healthy right now. Outside of him, I mean, let's look at it. Cody Clemens is more of an infielder. Christian Arroyo is more of an infielder. Buddy Kennedy, Cal Stevenson, those guys can play the outfield, but they haven't had good springs, and they haven't really been impact makers in the small chances they've gotten at the major league level. Like those guys are solid depth pieces if guys get hurt, but they're not going to make the major league roster out of camp. So look at that and you say, okay, your real options for who could start in center field were 2 guys, Brandon Marsh and Johan Rojas. Now, if you're asking me who the better defensive player is, it's Rojas beyond a shadow of a doubt. Brandon Marsh, remember, Gold Glove finalist or Gold Glove nominee, however you want to put it, in left field last year. So the dude can play defense. Just Rojas is an elite level talent. But when you look at the offense, Brandon Marsh is better offensively compared to Johan Rojas than I think Johan Rojas is defensively compared to Brandon Marsh. Rojas has negative power game. And maybe that's changing based on what he showed in spring training. I'm not trying to say Rojas stinks. I'm a big Johan Rojas defender, but Brandon Marsh is better offensively than him, clearly. Even with the strikeouts, even when the struggles against lefties, Brandon Marsh has more pop than him. Brandon Marsh is a better approach guy than him. And you say, Connor, Brandon Marsh strikes out a bunch. Guess what? Part of that comes from being too aggressive of a hitter, and he needs to work on that. Still, he's got a more, a more results-yielding approach than Johan Rojas, in my estimation. He's a better offensive player, basically top to bottom. The thing that Rojas needs to do is work on becoming more of a contact hitter and being better on the base pass this year. And he was better at that when he came back up last year after being sent down. But you really didn't have any other options. There's no true backup to Max Kepler in left field. There's no true backup to Nick Castellanos in right field. Rojas will kind of be the utility outfielder guy, or they'll shift it around like I was saying earlier. But part of it is I think Marsh is better than Phillies fans give him credit for. A bigger part of it is I don't know who else you would have played over Brandon Marsh. I don't think Rojas is ready for that. Like you might say Rojas is ready to be on the team. We had questions early on in spring training. Will Johan Rojas make this baseball team? Injuries opened the door for that. He had a really strong spring for what you'd expect from him. So credit to him for putting the work in and having a good spring. And I'm interested to see what he does this year. But he's not going to go from maybe make the team to beat out Brandon Marsh for the everyday starter position in center field. This is just how it was always going to go. So if you think that Marsh is not a starting caliber center fielder, I think you're underestimating him, but I don't think you're crazy, right? I think that's just a bold take. If you think that they should have started Rojas over him, I think you are crazy. And if you think that this is going to be something that the Philadelphia Phillies just lock in for 162 games, you're absolutely certifiably insane. They are, for all of the crap they get about not making changes, do you think there's any organization on the planet that would see a guy struggle for like 2 months to the level that Brandon Marsh struggled last year and just say, oh, we're fine with that? Like the Phillies didn't do that either. They tried to make changes in the outfield. The problem was Austin Hayes kept getting injured and they didn't really have the depth. But they're going to try things if Marsh doesn't get the job done. For the time being, he's going to get the opportunity, which I think it could really work out. It could lead to this boost of confidence that the Phillies haven't truly given Brandon Marsh as far as trusting him to play every day out there. That could lead to him realizing his potential. It could lead to the other effect, compounding disappointment and failure, which means you start struggling, you struggle more. All of a sudden, you got to make a change. That bothers you more than if you were just platooning and you were used to getting swapped out. So it all depends on performance, as all things do in the sports world. But I like that they are giving Marsh the opportunity. We will see how that plays out. Now, I don't know how much opportunity this next guy we're going to talk about is getting, but Justin Crawford is being placed into a very interesting spot as the minor league seasons get ready to begin. Of course, you're getting that just about the same time as Major League opening day gets going. So what's going on with one of the Phillies' top prospects and their top outfield prospect? I'll tell you about it coming up next as we continue Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about FanDuel first, though, because March Madness is here. Boy, is it here. Shout out FanDuel. Went 7-3 yesterday in the tourney games. Going to get back after it today. Actually, I'm already 1-0 today. There's money to be made out there on FanDuel, and they're giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories. Shout out Drake. Ended up with the dub yesterday. I forget if I mentioned that in the ad read, but I was big on Drake, and they win as an 11 seed. And even who's cutting down the nets. I like those Dookies. They play today. I've got my eye on a few other underdogs this year, though. Colorado State currently playing. If they win, look for them maybe a little bit. Keep an eye on my guys at Drake as they get ready for the second round. And FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props. They got a lot of stuff going on. FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. No waiting around, and there's action every day. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long with, again, our friends over at FanDuel. All right, maybe FanDuel is a fun thing for you to do to bet while you're sitting at home, but maybe you want to go to the game. You can still use your FanDuel app, but you want to use your Game Time app for that. There's nothing better than catching a live sporting event. Hey, opening day is right around the corner. Maybe an MLB game live. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, and the smell of ballpark food. And if you're looking to go last minute, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. With last minute deals, all-in pricing, and the lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, ticket prices drop as Game Time gets closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal. That's why it's called Game Time. You can get a great deal even up to the time the game's going to start. So go ahead and check it out. I mean, there are plenty of times, because I live in the city of Philadelphia, but Citizens Bank Park, easy to get to. If you're South Jersey, PA, Delco, anywhere, if you're in the city, like you can get there. Maybe you just like get a text at 4 o'clock from your buddies. What are you doing tonight? It's a Friday night. The Phils are in town. They're playing a good game. You go on your Game Time app. Before you know it, you're at Citizens Bank Park with a hot dog in your hand watching Bryce Harper hit a home run. I mean, it's so easy to figure it out, and they got a bunch of great features to make your ticket buying experience as easy as possible. The Game Time Picks feature filters out all the fluff, so you only find the great deals. They're awesome. And it's not just baseball games. You can also check out comedy, concerts, theater, other sporting events, all kinds of great stuff that you may need a ticket for. But make sure, whatever you're buying tickets to, you take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed with our friends over at Game Time. Now, this is very interesting to me. Justin Crawford, who is the Phillies' top outfield prospect and one of their top 3 prospects, really the top guys that you need to know are Andrew Painter, who should be up this year in the middle of the summer to pitch. He is an outstanding pitching prospect. Aiden Miller an infield prospect who has played short and third, and they're trying to figure out where his future is going to be, but he's very talented at the plate, solid defensively. And then Justin Crawford, who is a contact hitting outfielder, very, very athletic. Obviously, the son of Carl Crawford, longtime Rays outfielder. Different game than Carl Crawford, but he has that major league pedigree, athleticism through the bloodline. Like, he is a guy that is clearly ready for the moment. He was very good in his limited spring action with the Philadelphia Phillies. He was sent down very quickly to minor league camp. And when that happened, with the performance he put on, my immediate thought was, okay, kid had a nice performance this year. He shows that he's got the opportunity to be a big-time prospect, or at least to cash in a little bit on his big-time prospect status that some people already view him to have. The question is, how does that affect the major leagues? Probably won't see him this year. Maybe we'll see him next year. That's where I was thinking. And then we get word today that Justin Crawford is starting the season at AAA. And that piqued my interest because I had imagined he would be at AA ball and then earn his way up to AAA over the course of the season. There's a couple of things, and this is very similar, shockingly enough, to the Brandon Marsh conversation we just had at center field. There's two contributing factors as to why I believe the Phillies have Justin Crawford at AAA. One is his own performance, just like with Brandon Marsh getting the opportunity at center field by what he's done positively in his time with the Philadelphia Phillies. I think Justin Crawford showed a lot this spring that he's ready for that next step. And he's shown a lot through his minor league career that would indicate he's ready for that next step. It's not like he's a career 100 hitter and he had a great couple of games in spring training with the major league club, and all of a sudden they're like, AAA, go get it, bump him like 4 levels. Like, no, he was pretty close to this jump already. I just figured that they would, because he played minimal games at AA last year, they would put him in AA and then move him up when he gets some work in at that level. But they're accelerating his path. And I think that's credit to how hard he's worked, what he's shown in his time with the Philadelphia Phillies organization. And then it also brings us to this other thing. So it's not just Justin Crawford's work. And I'm not trying to diminish the guy's work at all. Like, no, I'm not saying, well, he's worked hard, but also he's getting the benefit. Like, no, he's a very talented prospect. He's one of the Phil's top 3 prospects. He could be a really good outfielder. And we're going to talk in just a second about the chances we see him at the major league level this year, because they're a non-zero chance right now. But the other thing this tells me is the Phillies are starved for outfield depth, right? Ideally, what you want to do with these young prospects, and I think about Jackson Holliday for the Baltimore Orioles. Remember, Jackson Holliday came up last year and absolutely struggled. He looked lost at the major league level after being an amazing prospect, rising through the ranks, not hitting any type of adversity really in the minors. He goes to the majors, and he looks like he's never seen a baseball thrown at him before. And then he gets sent down, and then he comes back up, and he starts to make a little noise, right? And we'll see what he is this year in Baltimore. Obviously, this is not Locked On Orioles, but my point is, even the most concrete of concrete prospects, you got to let them take their time to develop. You don't want to push them to the majors too soon because, God forbid, they get up there and they struggle. And then if you haven't correctly built up the expectations of that player, even the most talented prospects may look at it and say, damn, I've never struggled before in my life. Can I really do this? They get in their head. They don't work the same way. They start to doubt themselves. That doubt exists. It perpetuates because it now seeps into their minor league play. The next thing you know, you got a head case as a top prospect, and the guy doesn't pan out. That has happened before in baseball. It will happen again. So you don't want to rush players along, and that's why everyone who's looking for Aiden Miller to step in to replace Alec Boehm is crazy. But again, I imagined Miller and Crawford would be in AA to start the season together. Crawford goes to AAA. So what are the chances that that guy could be at the major league level this year? Obviously, there's not a lot of depth for the Phillies in the outfield. And Crawford has shown a lot of flashes of major league caliber play. Now, flashes of major league caliber play and being a major league caliber player are two totally different things. There's a lot of guys that have a little bit of talent, but to have enough to play consistently at the major league level, that's something that develops over time and fine-tuning your game and getting everything polished before you get that shot. I don't know that I see him coming up to the major league level this year because, one, Kyle Schwarber could always play the outfield, right? It's not ideal, but in a pinch, Schwarber could go out there and give you a game or two in the outfield. I don't know that the Phillies will do that, but they could if they needed to. That would probably be a preferred option just because he's on the team and you don't have to make crazy roster moves. If there's a short couple days injury, you could do that. Bryce Harper has said he's willing to go out there and play the outfield if needed to sign a free agent. Now, if something were to happen in right field and you could play Schwarber at first and Harper in right and DH somebody else, maybe DH Kepler, Rojas at center, Marsh in left, like they could find that out without calling somebody up. Everyone on the major league roster this year, with the exception of maybe a guy like, I don't know, Christian Arroyo, if he's the final name on the roster, are going to be proven major league caliber contributors to a championship caliber team. You don't want to throw a young kid into that spot unless you're sure they're ready. And I'm not there with Justin Crawford. Maybe the Phillies are, and I'm misreading this, but you've already got Schwarber as a better option. You've already got a shift around of positions as a better option. When Weston Wilson comes back, he's a better option. Buddy Kennedy is a better option. Cal Stevenson is a better option. These are guys with major league experience that have been there, done that before. Heck, even Cody Clemens in a corner outfield spot is a better option. So I'm not saying that Justin Crawford stinks. He's not as good as these players overall, because as a prospect being this highly ranked at the age that he is and having the pedigree he does, this is a good sign long-term for the Philadelphia Phillies. Like, fans should be excited about him being in AAA, but not excited to the point where they believe he's going to be like up in the first 2 weeks of the season. There would have to be some catastrophic failures in the Phillies outfield to see Justin Crawford. Maybe September call-ups, he gets a chance to try some stuff out. He gets a chance to come up for a little bit. Even then, you'll have to see what the weak spots on the team are. You may have to use those spots for bullpen depth. We've already seen maybe rotational depth, maybe infield depth. Who knows? Catcher depth. Garrett Stubbs will probably be part of that. There's a lot of stuff that you got to figure out between now and September. So don't take this as Crawford's just a step away from the big leagues, even though he's just a step away from the big leagues. And also do take this as a positive for his development as one of the Philadelphia Phillies' top young prospects. So good news, but maybe not as exciting as some Philadelphia Phillies fans are taking it to be. Sorry to pour half a cup of cold water on it, but still, if we see Justin Crawford next year to make up for, I don't know, what do you know, losing maybe Kyle Schwarber or Nick Castellanos or something like that, this outfield gets real good defensively if it's Marsh, Rojas, and Crawford. Something to think about for future seasons. Coming up next, we got a wild Phillies story coming or surrounding a lawsuit and some analytics company and computer company and all of this stuff, like some software thing. I'll explain as best as I know. It's a very interesting story, and it's one that I haven't really heard around baseball before. So we'll talk about the potential effects of what it could mean for the game itself as we wrap up today's episode. But let me tell you about my friends over at Just Ingredients first. Not just my friends, Bryce Harper's friends. More on that in a second. But when it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. That's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers an NSF-certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine. All of that stuff is awesome for you. Protein powder, getting you that extra protein you need that you may not get through your diet. Electrolytes helps replenish, helps rehydrate, helps do everything for your recovery. Pre-workout helps you get set up so that you're ready to go before your workout. And that creatine, well, you know what that does. That helps you hold that water in, build that bulk, repair those muscles faster. It's all rigorously tested to ensure they're free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. So you got no worries about the quality of stuff you're putting into your body. Just Ingredients is also partnered with the aforementioned two-time MVP, Philadelphia Phillies hero, Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF-certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. If you know anything about Bryce, he takes his body super, super seriously. The fact that he uses this stuff is all the endorsement you should need. That should be the entire ad read. Bryce Harper uses it. You should too. But you've already heard me tell you why Just Ingredients is the best. So go ahead and check it out. I mean, they got clean and transparent ingredients. I love that they prioritize wholesome, nourishing ingredients without the artificial junk. And whether you're recovering after a workout or need an energy boost, their grass-fed whey protein and pre-workout deliver real results. They sent me some. I'm going to be using it before my workouts. I cannot wait. So visit justingredients.us and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off. And for more wellness tips, follow at just.ingredients on Instagram. Shout out to our friends over at Just Ingredients for not just the care package, but for just creating the best supplements on the market.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Whoops, a couple wrong buttons there, but shout out to our college basketball channel. The hoop's going on right now. Now, the Phillies, they have a very interesting situation on their hands. I've never seen anything like this at the major league level or really at any level of baseball, because we know that analytics has taken a major foothold in the modern game, right? Everybody's got these programs, these stats, these next level numbers that they use to put together their analytics understanding of what the game of baseball is. Shout out Billy Beane. Shout out Bill James. Billy Beane, of course, the GM of the Oakland Athletics in the Moneyball years, who kind of brought this Moneyball idea to baseball. Sabermetrics, created by Bill James back in the day, who put together all of those numbers, who was an analytical guy. They're the ones that opened up the doorway to analytics being strongly considered in baseball. And then, you know what, also carrying over to other sports at the professional level in the United States of America. So with that comes technology. With technology comes companies. With companies comes purchase of those companies' software. And with purchases of that company's software comes lawsuits. Yes, the Philadelphia Phillies are accusing two sports analytics companies, Zealous Analytics and its owning company, Teamworks Innovations, of going back on a deal on the Philadelphia Phillies contract that they have with them. So apparently the Phillies had a deal with these two companies on this proprietary software that helped them. It created a platform that sets together analytics models for baseball. They basically paid these companies and said, hey, we like your software. Help us create this analytics stuff for baseball. We're going to pay you to use it. We're also going to pay you for exclusive use. You cannot use this with other Major League Baseball teams. The reason we're paying you is because it gives us an edge. Makes sense, right? It's the same way, hey, we're paying the scout. You do not also scout for the Yankees or the Mets or the Braves or the Dodgers. No, you scout for the Phillies. So you don't send the scouting report about players you like to 10 teams in baseball. No, you send it to us because we're paying you. Now, I don't know the idea behind the deal. I haven't read the deal. I haven't read the lawsuit. But what I know is that company has now taken parts of the analytics platform that the Philadelphia Phillies acquired from them, that paid them to use, and have sold it off to other teams, which is directly against, it seems, from what I'm reading, the deal that the Philadelphia Phillies have. So now all of a sudden, the Phillies are in this whole fight because their analytics program that they use is now available to other teams, which lessens their competitive advantage that they may have had. And I don't know what effect this is going to have, right? I don't know what they use the numbers for. I don't know how much those numbers factor into the Phillies' actual success. I don't know that the Phillies know that, but they like to have their own information, and they paid for something that it doesn't seem like the company is delivering on, which is exclusivity. So we'll see what comes out more on this story. Now, you might say, Connor, we've got 6 days till opening day. Why in the world do I care if the Phillies are selling a technology company? And I'll tell you why you care, because you're a Philadelphia Phillies fan, and this is the ultimate out, right? Now, part of me, like half of my brain, or maybe 3/4 of my brain, exists in the sports talk host, podcast host space, where I'm trying to make logical points with reasoning, throw in a couple fun analogies here to make it entertaining and give you guys a good listen. But then there's another like quarter of my brain over here that exists in the troll dumb sports fan world. And part of me, when I see this news, says, guess what? If the Phillies have a rough year this year, I am blaming those technology companies. I am blaming the analytics companies that sold off the proprietary platform. It's not Kyle Schwarber's fault he's striking out. They sold his information. Who knows if that team was one of the ones that got the analytics on Kyle Schwarber. It's a nice little out in a bar conversation if you have friends that are fans of other teams. But no, this is an interesting thing if you care about this type of stuff for the future of what sports is going to be, because when analytics become more and more part of the game and this proprietary information gets sold off, and then you have teams suing each other over these computer programs, when before it was just a guy with a box score that was writing down, hey, this guy bats 400. We should probably sign him. It's another reminder that baseball is in a new era than what it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. And there are new struggles with the game, and the Phillies are facing that right now. So we will keep a side eye on that, but that would not have been a story that would have made the podcast if we're in the regular season. That's also just hey, it's final week before opening day, so might as well throw that in there because a lot of people are taking that story, and I just kind of wanted to explain to you what exactly it is and also give you the out if any of your friends argue with you if the Phillies go through a tough stretch. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe it wasn't the London trip last year. Who knows? But a weird and wild story that kind of gives you an idea of where baseball is at as far as analytics is concerned. It's going to be part of the game forever at this point, folks. So just going to have to get used to it. But we're going to have to get used to baseball season because this is the last weekend coming up without baseball. Monday morning, we're going to do our last round of Mailbag Monday questions. And then it's the push towards opening day against Washington. It's going to be a fun week. I cannot wait. That's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for joining us. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us. And I will talk to you next time on Monday on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.